I can't read this. If it's on or off. Record, I think it says. There we go. All right.
Thank you. All right, so, okay, first of all, the word probiotics means for life, okay? What do you think antibiotics means? Against life, yeah. And there are certainly organisms we want to kill, okay? No doubt about it. But probiotics, as you will see as we go along, are the things that we actually need within our gut in order to promote health. It's defined by the World Health Organization as live microorganisms which, when administered in adequate amounts, confers a health benefit on the host. Non-pathogenic, and they're regarded as safe by the FDA. All very important things to know. Okay, how probiotics work, and we're going to go into each one of these things separately as we go along, so I won't explain it. But an overview is they produce pathogen inhibitory substances. They block the pathogenic bacteria adhesion sites. They work by nutrient competition and production, by the degradation of toxin and toxin receptors, and by the modulation of the immune response. It all sounds very scientific, but it will make sense here shortly. All right, our bodies are inhabited by numerous microorganisms, and these microorganisms create an ecosystem in our bodies. So if you think about the world is full of ecosystems, okay? We all took biology, we all know about our little ecosystems. Within the human body, we also have an ecosystem, okay? That ecosystem consists of a lot of different things. It consists of healthy bacteria. You'll hear me talk about healthy bacteria as friendly bacteria, probiotics. There will be different words that come up. If I switch to a new word, please let me know if you're confused. I'm trying to keep the verbiage somewhat the same. So we have healthy bacteria, we have pathogenic bacteria. We have viruses, toxins, and yeast, fungi, candida. We all know about candida. And those are the things that kind of make up this ecosystem, okay? If they are all within a certain range and they're balanced, that's okay. The body can take care of it, okay? It's when one overgrows, like the pathogenic ones, or the yeast overgrows, parasites, toxins. That's when we become unhealthy, okay? So our intestines have three components that are closely interact. We have our host cell, okay? So that's you and I. The nutrients that we put into our bodies, and we have microbiota. The microbiota is this ecosystem, okay? It's all these different organisms. Okay, now I found the history of probiotics very interesting because it's only been in the last few decades that science has started understanding probiotics, but really it was discovered quite a while back. So it can be traced back to the Old Testament in Genesis when Abraham was said to credit his longevity with the consumption of sour milk. Okay, that's like the very first recorded verbiage on probiotics. Of course, he had no clue as to why. In 1900, Ernest Morrow, anybody want to guess who Ernest Morrow was and what he discovered? The Morrow reflex, exactly. So he was a pediatrician back in Europe, and he presented the first biological characterization of Lactobacillus acidophilus, one of my favorite probiotics. And he won an award for his work on bacterial flora and pathological conditions within the infant's intestines. And so he's one that was looking at specifically within the infant's intestines, because back then they would have outbreaks of diarrhea, and many children died. They didn't have, I don't believe they had IV fluids or anything back then. And so he figured out this carrot soup that helped these kids get better. And from all that, he figured this out. Eli, I cannot tell you how to pronounce that, Mechnikov, he was a Russian scientist, and he won a Nobel Prize in 1908 for discovering phagocytosis. You guys all know about phagocytosis, when the white blood cells engulf and destroy bacteria. He theorized that aging was caused by toxic bacteria in our gut. You're going to see me use GIT, gastrointestinal tract. I'll pronounce that gut because GIT just sounds too weird to me. So, and lactic acid could prolong life, so he drank sour milk every day, okay? He, notably, he lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, outlived two of his wives and lived till he was 71. Back then, that was impressive. In the 1930s, this Japanese scientist, Minoru Shiruda, he read Metchnikoff's work, and so he investigated even further how bacteria could improve health. He discovered a causal relationship between gut microbiota and the immune system. He created a drink called Yakult, which actually still exists to this day, and it's full of probiotics. Okay, what are microbiota? They are organisms that inhabit our bodily organs or parts, or flora. So if any of you heard of the term normal flora?
Yes.
The normal, okay, that's your normal microbiota in your gut. Our intestinal microbiota is made up of trillions of cells. To put that in perspective, okay, you and I are made up, they guesstimate, of 1 trillion cells, okay? So I've seen anywhere from 10 trillion to 100 trillion bacterial cells, or microbiota, I should say, in our gut, okay? So we're outnumbered 10 to 1. If you were to take these teeny tiny microscopic microbiota out of our gut and weigh them, they would weigh 2 to 3 pounds. That's how many exist, 2 to 3 pounds worth in our guts. All right, some of these are harmful, pathogenic, and some of them are beneficial. So when you hear the word bacteria, you kind of immediately think of the pathogenic. We're nurses, we go, oh, but you gotta remember that some bacteria are helpful and good. Environmental and genetic factors influence the number and proportion of our microbiota. And we'll get more into that. Gut microbiota plays an important role in the pathogenesis of a number of diseases. And after the talk, I want to tell you kind of what I've learned for myself from all of this, and we'll get more into the adults. There's so much to know. An imbalance of beneficial and pathogenic microbiota can contribute to disease. So that imbalance is a hugely important thing. Supplementing beneficial bacteria, probiotics, can improve health. And we're going to look at that specific to the NICU. How can that improve our little neonates' health? Okay? And okay, so now we're going to specifically talk about the microbiota in our gut, okay? It's all over our bodies, we're going to the gut. All right, there are 3 types of them, okay? There's essential or beneficial bacteria, there's opportunistic flora, and there's transitional flora. And these 2 can be bad, okay? When in balance, they live peacefully together. That is hugely important to know. You will always have some of these in your gut at all times. When opportunistic flora overgrows, disease can occur, okay? So the colon is the primary site of bacterial cell colonization. And then I go on to say the upper GI tract has high levels of toxic acids, bile, and pancreatic secretions. So few microbiota can live there. So it's hugely important also that if you take oral probiotics, that it can get down to your colon. Okay, it's in the colon that the most important place is to get those colonized. And also, I've learned to take them that have the capsules with the extended release that can make it all the way down. All right, essential or beneficial bacteria. All right, the human intestine contains 300 to 500 different species of bacteria. Okay, I just yesterday read that it may be as much as 1,000. And again, this is where the numbers will get a little iffy. But the bottom line is it's hundreds of bacteria. Beneficial or friendly bacteria are the most important and most numerous in healthy individuals. Okay, so in unhealthy individuals, you can see more of the unhealthy type of bacteria. They include, okay, so here are our friendly ones: bifidobacteria, lactobacteria, propionobacteria, and physiological strains of E. coli, Peptostreptococci, and Enterococci, which I would never have thought that these could be healthy, but apparently they do have some that are healthy. And so these 2 here, the bifidobacteria and the lactobacteria, are the most important ones within the neonatal population. I'm going to explain why that is. And each one of those, by the way, the bifidobacteria will have different substrains of bacteria, like Bifido infantis, for example, is a strain from the bifidobacteria. And lactobacteria is exactly the same thing. And we'll get into those again in a little bit. Opportunistic flora, okay, they are harmful. They are bacteria, viruses, yeast, such as candida, parasites, and toxic substances that we ingest into our bodies. over 500 known species of these harmful bacteria, and staph, strep, these are all ones that you guys are familiar with. They are controlled by beneficial flora in healthy people, and they can cause health problems if they get out of control. I think I've gotten that point home, that they can cause health problems if they get out of control. Transitional flora. This is the third type. So we have the beneficial, we have the harmful, and now we have transitional flora. And they are the various microbes we ingest daily with food and drink. They're usually gram-negative bacilli from the environment, and they can cause disease if beneficial bacteria is weakened. Okay? Now for the good stuff. Friendly bacteria, probiotics. Okay, how do probiotics work? They protect the gut in many ways. Okay, first of all, they coat the entire length of the GI tract with a bacterial layer which provides natural protection from invaders. I think I have a picture. Here we go. So here's your villi here's your GI tract lining and little villi that shoot out like that. These here, all these are your healthy bacteria that are actually creating a barrier, physical barrier against these toxins and viruses and bacteria. Okay? They produce an antibiotic-like substance, antifungal, volatiles, and antiviral substances to kill invading pathogens. And these are some of the things you probably have heard of: interferon, lysozyme, and surfactants. They do this by dissolving the membranes of the viruses and the bacteria. They produce organic acids that decrease the pH near the gut wall, which it gets as low as 4.0 to 5.0 acidity, creating an acidic environment that restricts growth and activity of pathogenic microbes. This here was fascinating to me because I had been in the NICU. I was a NICU nurse for early on in my career for like 10 to 12 years. And everyone got Zantac and Reglan. I don't know if any of you were nurses back, but everybody got Zantac and Reglan. I came back to the NICU and it's like, where's the Zantac and the Reglan? Turns out we were doing a bad thing because the acid was actually protecting our babies, and they have linked it to increase in NEC, those two drugs. A major source of energy and nutrients for the cells lining the gut. So friendly bacteria also nourish those cells that line the gut wall. Okay, so they play many roles. All right. So within this picture, you can see that remember we talked about acidophilus and lactobacillus. Those are my two that I really want to focus on. So acidophilus and other probiotic bacteria are right here. This is right here, and they're secreting these antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal chemicals. So as they secrete them, they kill off viruses, harmful bacteria, and funguses. Probiotics form a physical barrier to hinder invasion of bacteria and yeast, which we talked about. And probiotics, like acidophilus, creates an acidic environment which promotes iron and other mineral absorption. Okay? Okay. Damaged beneficial bacteria. So what happens if the probiotic in the gut is damaged? If friendly bacteria not functioning properly, the gut wall is open to invasion by pathogens. This can cause chronic inflammation in the gut. And how many of you have now heard about the anti-inflammatory diet? That's kind of like the latest and greatest thing with treating heart disease and anything that stems from inflammation. They're finding that heart disease is really stemming from inflammation. It's kind of all new. But that's why. And probiotics here can help with chronic inflammation. The gut wall also can be malnourished if our good, hefty, healthy bacteria are damaged. Okay, now we're getting to the infants. So I said all that to say, how can we bring it home to the NICU? So prior to birth, infants' guts are bacteria-free. They are sterile. There are now studies saying, well, maybe they're not. Well, the bottom line is they're almost completely sterile, okay? But they are quickly colonized after they're born. The composition of the gut microbiota is influenced by the type of birth, the type of feedings, the gestational age, and if antibiotics are used, okay? And we're going to go through each one of those individually because it's super important to understand that. Type of birth. Infants born via C-section are colonized by different bacteria, or especially the healthy ones, than those born vaginally. C-section babies have fewer bifidobacteria and bacteroids, and remember how we talked about how important bifidobacteria was, and higher amounts of C. diff. Babies born vaginally are colonized with their mother's vaginal bacteria, which is rich in bifidobacteria. Hugely important, you'll see why shortly. However, one exception to this is if the mom has unhealthy microbiota herself, baby's going to get her unhealthy microbiota. And you can think about our population, we have a lot of unhealthy moms. The way that it gets into the vagina is all this is taking place in the gut, right? Well, because stooling is so close, the rectum and the vagina are so close together that those different microbiota just kind of climb up in there, and that's why women get yeast infections. If mother's vaginal flora isn't healthy, babies will be too. Makes sense. Types of feeding. Formula-fed infants have different intestinal flora than breastfed babies. Breastfed infants' guts have an abundance of healthy bifidobacteria, lactobacilli, and bacteroids. Colostrum is vital for the appropriate population of an infant's gut with healthy microbial flora. Saddens me. There are cultures who believe that colostrum is dirty milk. They truly believe this, and that is so hugely important to educate these moms that no, it's, as we all know, it's the most important thing in giving our infants at birth, but part of that is because it is so full of those healthy microbiota, and if we don't establish that from the beginning, that can lead to a lifelong health issues, okay? Formula-fed babies have higher levels of streptococcus, staph, E. coli, and Clostridia. Studies have shown formula-fed infants are 6 to 10 times more likely to develop NEC than infants who are fed breast milk, and we kind of all know that. Okay, use of antibiotics in newborns. Okay, this is not anti-antibiotics, I just found a picture. But basically it's important to know that when you give antibiotics, you not only kill the bad bacteria, you kill the good bacteria. Okay, so use of antibiotics in newborns. They change the gut microbia since they kill both pathogenic and beneficial bacteria, okay? Many neonates receive antibiotics on admission. We all know that we do that. And in our population, they don't have an immune system, so where's that balance? That's the question I think that's going to be asked in neonatology in the coming years is, good versus bad. But if we replace probiotics, then giving the antibiotics won't have the same effects, detrimental effects, because it has obviously the good effect of killing off the bad bacteria, but it has the negative effect of killing the good bacteria. And so I think in the future, that's going to be something we have to look at closely. Most NICU babies receive antibiotics at some point in their stay, and this altered gut flora can lead to diarrhea, constipation, and candida, thrush. I'm going to park it there for a minute, thrush. How many of you have taken care of babies in the NICU with thrush? My sweet little primary has thrush right now, and what we did is, as I'm reading about this, he's had it for months and months and months, and we were giving nystatin for months and months and months, and it wasn't going away. And what happened is he started with an oral aversion. He used to love his little passy, but as that got thicker and thicker, he wasn't loving his little passy so much anymore. I got really concerned about this, and so I went to the team. I went to our lactation specialist, and I went to our speech therapist and said, hey, what can we do? Well, I'm reading this, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if mom took probiotics? Because I asked for probiotics and they didn't want to do it. The doc's quote was, I don't want to hurt them, okay? I don't want to hurt him. Because honestly, the knowledge isn't out there yet, okay? And so, and I completely understand that. So what we did is we had mom take probiotics. Probiotics go through the breast milk. She would bring in fresh pumped milk, dip it in his pacifier, put it in his mouth several times a day, got an order for this. Within 1 week, it was gone. His thrush was gone. So pretty exciting stuff. Let's see, so most NICU babies will receive antibiotics, and it alters the gut flora. Oh, sorry, already read that. And there are so many other things that this does. These are just based on scientific studies that I found with my 100+ hours of research. There's more where this comes from. All right, infants born prematurely have different. All right, so we talked about how the things that affected in the NICU population. So we talked about whether you're born vaginally or via C-section. If you get breast milk or formula, gestational age also affects your gut microbiota. So infants born prematurely have a different gut microbiota than full-term infants. So premature infants' bacterial flora is greatly modified. Remember we talked about adults having 300 to 500, actually close to 1,000 different microbiota in their gut. Premature infants have less than 20. And those are predominantly staph, Enterobacter, Klebsiella, Enterococci, C. diff, and Clostridia. Bifidobacteria, the friendly ones, are not found in very low birth weight infants. And then Bifidobacteria and Lactobacillus were found in less than 5% of preterm infant stool. Okay, so it's saying that their guts are not being lined with these important bacteria. The combination of increased pathogenic organisms and decreased friendly bacteria is speculated to put preterm infants at higher risk for NAC.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did this stuff account for like very low birth weight infants who were born vaginally, who were being fed breast milk?
Yeah, because what happened, what this comes from is there's been now 25 different randomized controlled studies done, okay, and this huge meta-analysis of it. The problem was these were done in different countries and different languages. I mean, so it was very difficult to do this search, and everyone did it differently. What they used as their probiotic was strains were different than somebody else used. What their criteria was for these studies was different than somebody else's criteria. And so it was very difficult to figure out in that. So more studies are needed for the specific, like, okay, if they're breastfed and C-sectioned and you know, or breastfed vaginal babies, did they do better than C-section? That's another study, which would be phenomenal. But I didn't see with that one.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Okay, necrotizing enterocolitis. One of the leading cause of mortality and morbidity in preterm infants. It occurs when the lining of the intestinal wall dies and tissues slough off. The cause is not fully known, but it is believed that inflammation is a key factor. Okay, hugely important. One of the hypotheses is that it's possible that a decreased blood flow to the gut prevents production of mucus that protects that GI tract lining. Pathogenic bacteria in the gut is thought to be the cause, okay? And presumed prerequisites for NAC are prematurity, formula feeding, gut ischemia, and bacterial colonization. That gut ischemia plays into it, the blood's being shunted away, okay? Necrotizing enterocolitis continues. It affects 6 to 7% of very low birth weight infants. That's less than 1,500 grams. The minimal improvement in the rate of NAC in the last 20 years. Okay, so just having been the NICU nurse 20 years ago and now being one again, it's amazing how far we've come with so many things. Ventilation alone. Back when I started, it was an infant star ventilator with PIP, PEEP, I-time, oxygen, you know this. And now it's like so complex, you know, the oscillator, the jet, volume ventilation is all newer. So just within that, the improvements are phenomenal. The improvements of how we treat NAC once it occurs is phenomenal. Just our understanding of breast milk, everything. However, there's been minimal improvements of the actual rate of NAC, okay? That the babies are actually getting NAC, and it's frustrating a lot of people, okay? The mortality rate is still 20 to 25%, even with improved approaches to how we handle it and prevention. Morbidity. They have prolonged hospitalizations. They have short bowel syndrome. Complications with prolonged TPN and lipids. These are all things we've seen. Recurrent sepsis and long-term neurodevelopmental impairments. This fascinates me. And after our talk, is officially over and I'm talking to you as my friends and it's not official any longer, I'm going to tell you some things about neurodevelopment and how it relates to the gut. It's phenomenal. All right, most at risk are extremely low birth weight infants, less than 1,000 grams, and preterm infants less than 28 weeks. Those are the kiddos that we obviously watch very closely for those abdominal births and signs and symptoms of NEC. The economic burden is estimated to be $1 billion with an E dollars a year just for NEC. Okay, that's also very important. Coming up. All right, strategies for preventing NEC, what the NICU is currently doing, and you guys can let me know if there's anything in addition in our NICU. We have the antenatal use of glucocorticoids. We have given them fresh breast milk. Aggressive prevention and treatment of sepsis, that's why we give the antibiotics within that first golden hour. And the cautious approach to enteral feedings. Anything else you guys can think of that we do here at Vandy? I can't think of anything either. Alrighty. Important of healthy gut flora. Okay, I in 24 years of nursing have never heard this, and that shocks me. The gut is the largest immune system organ in our body. It is estimated that 70 to 80% of the immune system is within our gut, in our GI tracts. I would never guess that. I have never been taught that. I've never heard that. Babies are born with immature immune systems. Healthy bacterial flora plays a crucial role in appropriate maturation of this immune system. If establishment of balanced gut flora does not take place by 3 weeks of age, the baby is left immune compromised. But that's a lot of our babies. That was shocking to me to read that. And that is from a neurologist. The woman who I got this claim from is a neurosurgeon, neurologist, whose child was diagnosed with autism at age 3. She said that her field had absolutely nothing to offer her child. So she went back to school, got a nutritionist degree, and figured it out herself. And she came with her studies, has come up with all these statistics here. Her child's now a teenager and completely free of autism. Alrighty, immunity. The ability to resist damage from foreign substances such as microorganisms. Immunity is categorized into 2 systems. We have innate immunity and adaptive immunity. In innate immunity, the body recognizes a foreign substance and destroys them. It responds this way every time. So in our little bodies, our white blood cells see something foreign and destroys it. Okay, it does that over and over and over. Okay, so with adaptive immunity, the body also recognizes the foreign substance but remembers it for the next time and improves its response each time. That's why vaccines work. Innate immunity must function properly for adaptive immunity to be initiated and regulated. So you have to have this innate immunity properly functioning in order to even hope to have your adaptive immunity respond appropriately, okay? And here's one of my things that I found, that 70% of the immune system occurs in the intestines. All right. Ways beneficial bacteria, probiotics in the gut improve immune response. They take part in lymphocyte and immunoglobulin production. So bifidobacteria have muramyl dipeptides in its cell wall, which activates synthesis of the lymphocytes. The lymphocytes are white blood cells that produce antibodies and other chemicals responsible for destroying microorganisms. These lymphocytes that are located in the gut wall produce I am like getting really parched. Immunoglobulins, most importantly IgA. All right, IgA is huge in the immune system. So IgA is found in colostrum, breast milk, and mucous membranes of the gut. And remember how we were talking about NEC, and it's theorized that it was the lack of that mucous membrane that might be causing some of the problems with NEC? Well, IgA is found in that mucous membrane, so that's probably part of the reasons why. It protects mucous membranes by destroying invading bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. beneficial bacteria also slows down the degradation of IgA. So it allows that IgA that is there to work longer. Okay. Neutrophils are white blood cells that release lysosomal enzymes that kill microorganisms. So neutrophils phagocytize or eat bacteria, viruses, toxins, and cellular debris. Approximately 126 million neutrophils leave the bloodstream and pass through the walls of the gut daily. How important is that then? If 126 billion of them are leaving our blood and going through the gut, okay?